But if you go through Kachar and go up to the top of the pass, you can take a road down to Aguilar. It's a dirt county road. And these walls come together there. Maybe they were, some guy put a gate on it years ago.
On the walls?
On the walls, you couldn't get through, like that was his land, I don't know, but, that's gone, but the beauty, it's just spectacular beauty, so, anyway. Yeah, so, good afternoon. So, anyway, do we have we do have a form?
Yeah.
Three?
Okay. So anyway.
How's that gonna work when I step down?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Bob sent me an email, said he might not be able to come in on Zoom.
Chris is sick.
He's in Nebraska with a phone that's been destroyed, so.
Chris Lynn is sick, and I tried to get hold of Leslie Parks as the alternate, but she didn't respond.
Bob can't make it.
But he's gonna try to get in on Zoom apparently.
Well, he said he might not be able to.
Yeah, he'll try.
He'll try.
So, then I'll have to table till next time because we don't have a quorum.
No, we have.
But not for Christie's, not when I have to step down, make a request.
Mm.
So 500,000 years ago, but you call it still active?
Yes, it's still active. .0 is, it's the only active
Can you,
volcano.
Can we sacrifice people?
I don't know. It's a good question. I know it's emitting gas vapors and so forth.
I have a
We were
few.
up at Yellowstone a few years ago, and that
When I worked for
has
the
been
government,
600,000
I had a
years or
sign
so.
that said,
It erupts every 600,000 years.
karma.
And
you know,
there's,
Yeah.
you know, the earth keeps moving over this hot spot.
Paper,
Yeah.
Karma's
And
list, and it was
only,
the
the
crust
crust
of
is-
my entire
The
command,
only
350 people.
advantage now is the crust is thicker
Uh-huh.
than it was 600,000 in that area. It's kind of a J shaped.
I kayaked and camped on Lake Yellowstone,
Oh, we have
did
Bob.
40
Bob
miles.
got on. Oh, yay.
and in the middle of the lake, between the two thumbs, where it's 320 feet deep, you can feel the hot bubbles coming up in the 40-degree water.
So I told a young ranger up there, I said, I know how to solve this problem. Let's just Yellowstone Lake, just punch a hole in it and put that out. She was gonna look into it.
It would be interesting.
Was that Washington State?
Yes, sir.
Act two.
Doesn't matter. I mean, my kid got a degree, that's all that counts.
What did you say?
So my kid got a degree, that's all that counts.
That's all that counts, that's right.
I am a graduate of Washington State.
I applied and I got accepted, but I never went.
Well, this is back in the 70s.
It's still in high school.
Were you born then?
What was I born in the seventies?
Yeah.
I was born in 76.
Okay,
So you're a graduate.
there you go.
Well, are you from Washington?
I am
What's your name, sir?
Robert
Your last name?
Geisinger.
Robert Geisinger. In Pennsylvania, there's a thing called Geisinger Medical Center. It's huge.
That's ours.
That's yours.
Philip Geisinger landed in 1727, and his descendants are concentrated at Upper Milford Mennonite Church.
Yeah, I was offered a job there right out of graduate school.
And Geisinger Medical Clinic has been acquired by Kaiser Permanente now.
Yeah.
So it's
I can't even remember where the campus was.
Sorry, where in Washington State?
Olympia, capital.
I lived in Bremerton for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
Well, I was in Burlington for until 1990.
Go ahead and call this meeting to order. If everyone stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairman Patterson. Mr. Winky,
Present.
Mr. Van Dorn,
Present.
and Mr. Fulton.
Present on Zoom.
We have Mr. Lund, who is absent. So we have a quorum.
Recognition of visitors, I'll start in the back and we'll go this way. State your name and physical address, please.
Robert Geisinger, 55 Wild Rose Drive, Kansas City, Colorado.
Chuck Yago, 310 South Fifth Street.
Ben Livesey, 1855 Oak Grove Circle, West Cliff, Colorado.
Well, this is like so few people. Oh, we have someone on Zoom.
Laura,
Laura? Are
that's
you-
Laura Paquette. I'm not.
I don't know if she's able to say her name, but,
She has herself muted, so
okay. So we do have a Laura on Zoom. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Anyone like to make a motion to approve those, or
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
And I'll
motion's
second.
made and second to approve the minutes? Any discussion? Bob, did you have discussion?
No, all look good.
All
Thank you.
those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Old business, I'm the first item, so let the record state that I'm stepping down for this and I brought paperwork. Not that it's not stuff that you don't already have.
Yes.
You know, we able to turn my volume up, I can't really hear.
John
well.
would have to. Take the view.
Yeah, so someone.
Can't, as mayor.
John, can you take the?
Christie,
meeting over?
could you see why you're stepping down?
I'm stepping down because I am item A on the old business to continue discussion that we had last month on the heavy industrial property that I own.
She owns some property.
So, my item A is discussion of possible proposed affordable housing ordinance.
No, this is old business.
I got, I
That
think
got
I'm
changed?
item A and yours is item B.
if you go to your Google Drive,
Oh. I wouldn't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the last thing that you said that I opened.
I updated it in, yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. I'll just email it to you.
Okay, that's fine.
So last month, when I asked about this, you guys asked me to look into maybe the highway commercial versus the heavy industrial. And I did, and there are a couple things that are a use by right in heavy industrial, and I highlighted this, I think it's on like page 2 of this draft deal. That are a use by right in heavy industrial, that's a special use permit in highway or highway commercial, and that is the automobile sales, rentals and services, agricultural heavy equipment sales or services, building material and lumber sales, and then trucking, which originally that yard has always been used as a trucking yard. So it was a trash business for 18 years. And so a few things that I noticed or that I looked, is that like right now, there are automobile sales happening and highway commercial. And I don't know if that's a special use permit or not, but again, that's a property right on Main Street, that's highway commercial, that a person can live there, and they also are doing that type of business. I think that there's a lot of, like, what heavy industrial is perceived to be on a national level versus what it is here seems to be pretty different, because if you look at what the allowable uses are, it's not like this major industrial complex can come in, CO2 plant or something like that can't really even happen here. And I also wasn't sure, like, based on the map, those PUDs are still showing, and I'm not sure if those have changed at all, but even if those have changed some, in the B2 zone, people are still allowed, again, to be able to reside above, below, or next to a commercial business, and I don't think we can take rights away from people. So I don't know if any of those have been rezoned heavy industrial. And I also think that a lot of your major heavy industrial type industries are regulated by EPA or CDPHE. So they're not something that can just like set up on 2 acres on the edge of town. And I don't think our zoning, what we allows that. So I also still come back to if a CO is issued and, the person has followed all the requirements to separate the living from the commercial space, then I don't see how that's a liability for the town any more than it could be a liability if CO is issued for any other property in the community or in the town. So, I mean, obviously the commercial codes have to be followed between the shop and the living area, but even Paul, where you are, I think, zoned highway commercial, you're allowed to have living at your place, just based on what our existing codes are right now. There have been talk about, the propane company out south of town. Well, are you saying that he could just set up a house right there by his propane tank? Well, yeah, he's zoned highway commercial, and I looked into propane companies, and could find no regulation that said that you can't have living there. And there used to be, Margas used to be set up right across Hermit Road at 3rd Street. And all their tanks and everything were right there, right next to living. So I still come back to, this is the only heavy industrial lot in town. Nothing that we allow would afford some humongous hazardous whatever to come in. And I would just like the option to be able to allow people to put a residence there as maybe they want to start a business, and it's easier that way.
My memory of the discussion last month was that we were concerned that for somebody's health who might be living above the business part of the building, and that fumes from exhaust fumes, welding fumes or whatever might affect their health. Then I recall that Glenn Miller and his wife live right on Main Street, Miller Automotive, and they live right in the same building. And obviously they're still around, and so we allowed that. And I don't even know what that zone would be, Caleb, on Main Street.
Core commercial.
Core commercial.
I'm
So
sure the
they-
uses have changed.
I'm sorry?
I apologize. I'm sure the uses have changed.
Yeah, but he had an automotive center right there where he's welding and running automobiles inside. And we didn't say anything when they built. They always lived there, I think, and they built this a new apartment or whatever there. And he got a permit, and that's all I remember, but we allowed him to live there. So it's not something we have denied in the past. And I guess I support Christie's position on this in the sense that at some point, a person could be living there and people have to be responsible for themselves. I don't think we can protect the town if a person decides to do something stupid. That's not our role. And so I guess I support her position on this. That's all I'm going to say at this juncture.
Well, one thing I want to say about like fumes and things, there is nothing in the existing code for like highway commercial or core commercial that, I mean, people could be doing welding in their, I mean, they could be, manufacturing is an allowed use in highway commercial. And so there, already people are allowed to live on a highway commercial and a highway commercial property, and they could be doing that now.
Bob has hand up there, you know.
And I'm-
Oh, Bob's got his hand up.
Yeah, please. Okay, we can go back and forth all day, I think, on this, but my suggestion is just leave it as is. So that's okay with y'all, isn't it, Christie? And then if I were someone else to come in to buy it, then we address it at that point when it's more definitive as far as what the potential use could be.
Christie, I imagine the prospective buyer is wanting this in place before they buy, or?
That I would like, I don't have a prospective buyer right now. I would like to be able to market it in the way that a person could, they could live there as well. And also on my lot, which actually has way more usage than even heavy industrial in the town, but my lot in Shadow Ridge does allow living there, a lot of other things too, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with. So it just is a little contradictory that it's allowed in the subdivision. Literally a fence line separates those properties. I just don't want to put a potential buyer in a position of having to come before this board and ask permission to live there. Why, I just don't see why it can't just be done.
Okay, well, I'll change mine then. So, notice as it is right now with heavy industrial, one cannot live in there. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
So you're asking us to actually change that particular code. I think one of the issues with our codes is we don't know where they came from. They were copied from someone else's code probably decades ago before you were sitting in that chair, Paul. And I bet if we look around the country, look around the state, we'll find that all heavy industrial zones do not allow residential. And I go back to the concern about fumes. It's one thing to have a 1 hour firewall, that's easy to do, but that doesn't protect the air quality between the two spaces. And it could be welding, it could be a cabinet shop that's just creating a crap load of dust. And on one side, you've got people that have the option to wear PPE to protect their airways and lung from fumes and dust. And on the other side, you've got somebody, living there, maybe with children. So I'm guessing that if we go way back, when people first started creating heavy industrial, wherever that code came from that we copied decades ago, they were concerned for the same reasons. So there was a reason for that. I get your arguments, Christie, but I can see the possibility of an unhealthy situation. And if you create that space, is it owner occupied? Could it be rented?
That's the question I had, John, is it gonna be a rental for somebody? Or is it gonna be occupied by the owner? If it's gonna be a rental, then I think I might change my position.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it would be for an owner occupied. That would be what I would want to see it as.
So if we, allow the dwelling unit attached, right, above, below, behind, then it, you could, the town really couldn't, say otherwise. I wanted to point to the code real quick. She did make up some good points, that, on the highway commercial, Paul, you brought this up, they could have a garage below and living unit above. So that was right, that I will say that the B2 areas, those are light industrial, so there's a difference between those. And I know you brought the example of the propane tank. Due to the variance, he's only allowed to have a propane tank there, and that's about it, with one office unit there, from what I remember. But going on to 10.2.2, dwelling units above, below, or behind the business is as special, let me get it right, permitted by special review. So what we, could do if the concern was fumes, and if the other end was property rights, maybe we could eliminate both by somehow having it detached, allowing since considering this a special review, allowing a detached property there to be a company. I don't know how the planning commission feels about that. That's just another compromise maybe, but that is also another option.
Well,
Go ahead, Paul.
yeah, we talked about that at the last meeting. What Christie wants is to have a dwelling within the building.
Mhm.
So, but back to your point, Caleb, about use by special review for a dwelling, and maybe we need to figure out what's gonna go in there. Now, that's a one-time thing. So the guy decides he's not gonna be a cabinet maker anymore, he's gonna be some other thing. But, he would have to come back for another permit, so. Well, I would not want it to be a rental. Number one, but I would agree for the owner occupied. I mean, he's the one who knows what he's dealing with when it comes to fumes.
Well, I think the other twist here is somebody buys it and leases it to somebody who's doing manufacturing. So then who's the owner that's occupying that?
That's a good point.
That's a good point. I just kind of come back to item 41 is light equipment repair and service stations. And that's a right in both highway, commercial, and heavy industrial. And I mean, welding, any kind of fumes, any of that can easily be going on in that type of use. But for some reason, a living quarter is acceptable in that, but not acceptable in heavy industrial. And I know what you're saying about, what heavy industrial is typically supposed to be.
Yes.
I don't disagree with that, but I just don't think that that's what it is here. If you look at all of the rights allowed, none of those are, like what is considered a really heavy industrial. And there are, not in the town of West Cliff, but in the county and in Silver Cliff as well, there are shops that have living quarters, and those shops are used for trucking. Those shops are used for equipment repair, and the living is attached. And actually, the one in Silver Cliff, I know is not owner occupied, is going to be a rental, but it had to meet all of the codes in order to even be set up to do that. I just think that particularly someone that kind of comes from a place of having dealt with trucking, it would have been a nice opportunity to have maybe been able to live there back in the day. But that wasn't allowed. But a whole bunch of the zoning regs have changed since then. So I don't think it was allowed in a lot of places either. But I just don't, the big ones that are different between highway, commercial, and heavy industrial are the rental, sales, and service, and the repairs, being able to do repairs and maintenance on equipment. So that's my, I don't have a buyer. I just would like to be able to market it as this being an opportunity, an option.
I would be comfortable with owner or lessee occupied.
Okay. Bob, did you hear that?
Oh, yes,
You agree to that?
I agree. Yeah, that sounds like a good option.
I'll make a motion that we, for heavy industrial, allow the dwelling or the building to be owner occupied by an owner or a lessee, to be occupied by a, oh, that's not really right. Forget that. I make a motion that heavy industrial buildings can also be a dwelling by the owner or a lessee.
I second.
Make sense?
I think it should be, an owner, I don't want there to be misinterpretation that a heavy industrial shop means you don't have to have a business there, you can just live there. So like, I don't know, a residence attached to an existing business, or I just don't want someone to, because I agree with what you're saying, but I don't want someone to be kind of sneaky,
Well,
like, oh, it says.
We can use the same language that, that you can have a residence behind or above, which we use in other zones, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we're on discussion right now, but this is used by special review. So unfortunately, Christie, we're gonna have to do a special review process. And I would even encourage the planning commission. So special review is going to stay with, with her, but if she sells, it doesn't stay like a variance. Variance will stay with the property. So I wouldn't, either way, the fee's the same. So
That's
gonna
not
have
what
to-
I'm asking. I'm asking the planning commission to change that from a special review to a right.
okay, with that, and that's fine, and I understand that, but we're talking specifics about, we'd rather it be the lessee, right, or on so forth and so forth, but without having that specifically in the code book, we can't, why have something you can't regulate, right? So
we have to change that in the code book, so that's a different process.
you either, I'm thinking it's by special review, you don't even put it in the code book, this is something you're gonna have to have on paper that binds with the property. If you want specific attachments, now, if you just wanna open it entirely to, a lodging or, residences above, below, behind, without any specifics on how it looks like, then you can do that, but it has to be one or the other.
I'm not
Well,
sure I
however, we
understand.
say that heavy industrial buildings can be lived in, can be a dwelling above, below, or attached by the owner or the lessee of the business.
So again, our zone district use schedule just says, right now it just says S, right? Used by special review, meaning you can live above, below, or behind in a heavy industrial. If we change it, we're gonna have to do R, which is use permitted by right. Would it be use prohibited? Or it'd have to go to R. A is use available by PUD, so it would have to be by right, meaning all of the stipulations that you guys want, right? Having it owned by a lessee or the owner itself, we couldn't give that marching order because we couldn't regulate that. Just based on changing 10.2.2. We couldn't.
So are you saying that the only thing that could be recommended would be to change 39, which is dwellings above, below, and behind, from an S to an R? If it wanted to get more specific in the way of that it has to be owner occupied or lessee occupied, then that would be a special review.
I would say a variance specifically to bind with the property. Special review, we do have a special review process, but last time I talked with Clay, and it's been a minute, special review is almost not as, it binds with the owner now, it's not the next.
Right,
The
yeah.
variance will bind with the property. So that's, I don't mean to confuse you all, but that's what we.
One of the concerns I have is that we, as a board, we may never know when the property sells, what happens beyond that,
As a building official, if someone wanted to build there, right, at least that gives me, oh, okay, well, there's a variance here, so.
Right. But, let's say that the building changes hands. And, it would still, these things would still apply. And how would we know that? How would we know he's not gonna lease it out as a rental up above? We wouldn't. Unless, I don't know how you would find that out, Caleb.
Yeah, we
So
wouldn't, yeah.
even if you had a variance or review by special, use by special review, you still wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, specifics like that are so hard to even govern. If we don't, I would really recommend if we're gonna put something in there, make it something, you know, that we're able to govern, not something that we're not able to govern. And like you said, I wouldn't be able to know who lives up there, what their relationship is,
Regardless of what we do.
regardless of what we do.
Well, so dwelling units above, below, and behind the business are a right then.
Not in heavy industrial.
You
That's
want-
what I'm asking.
Yes, right.
That's what I want. I want it to be a right in heavy industrial, or I want, items 42, 43, 44, and 47 to be considered allowed in highway commercial. I mean, I guess it could split either way. And whatever is the
Okay,
most,
so let me, all right, so, you're not in highway commercial now, but we could zone that highway commercial. Is that what you're saying?
that's where my argument is yeah, you could, but there's not there's 4 things that are not allowed in highway commercial right now. I'm seeing things that are in highway commercial where these things are being done, and I'm not sure if that's like they pulled a special use permit or they're just being done. Automobile sales right here on Main Street. I don't know what's going on with that shop it's actually in Viviana Parquet, so I don't know if that's,
Is that one across from the Mormon church,
yeah.
that truck repair shop?
Yeah, I think that's Sangre View, Plain Unit
Yeah, but still
Development,
highway
B2,
commercial.
B1. I think it's only B2 and B1s. B1s are along the highway, B2s are everywhere else.
That's Boss Diesel.
So,
Yes, that's
and,
light
and,
industrial.
and again, in the B2, no, in B1, it's a right, but in B1 and B2, living on above, below, whatever is right in B1 and B2. So again, I mean, there's just like a few properties where things are being done that they're technically not zoned for, which I don't, so I'm just asking, and I'm fine with that, whatever, but I just am asking that I be allowed to be able to market that property, and I'm not throwing a big sign up on there that says that, but just say that, yes, you have the option to be able to turn whatever, as long as it meets all the code, an area into a living space in that shop.
If I could give a recommendation to the planning commission, I would recommend a few things. One, you either change it to special review or by right. 2, you would have to rezone it to highway commercial. And the third is, again, if you want it, if you're worried about fumes directly on, you can just drop the situation entirely, or have a dwelling that's detached a certain amount of feet away as a variance. So I hopefully those are clear.
So which,
Let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
which zone, highway commercial or highway heavy industrial? Which one are you the most comfortable with
I am
no changes?
neither. I mean, with no changes, I mean, the most fair, I think, based off of what I see other businesses, that exist right now in highway commercial, and I'm seeing these, number 42, number 43, number 44, and number 47 already taking place in highway commercial, even though they're technically not zoned to be doing that.
Because we're not enforcing, but that's beside the point.
So, I mean, so if those businesses have been existing for a period of time and there hasn't been enforcement and it hasn't
offended anyone or bother anyone, wouldn't it be easier then to just add those rights to highway commercial?
Or do we just eliminate highway, heavy industrial and just make everything highway commercial?
There's that.
Well, that's essentially what you're asking.
Well, those are two good options.
Let me ask you a question. Assuming we allowed dwelling units above, below, and behind the businesses in highway commercial, would that meet your needs?
That meets my needs, except it, according to the code in place right now, that zone does not allow 42, 43, 44, and 47. And I don't want to eliminate those rights to a potential buyer there. But the argument then could be, well, those businesses are already existing in highway commercial without any problems. I mean, I can't think of any beef about any of those things. So, but I don't see, due to EPA regulations and CDPHE regulations, and then just what the allowed uses are in our code, I don't see heavy industrial being maybe what we think of heavy industrial in a big city or something. I don't think in our community that is really heavy industrial. Those only those four things that differentiate between highway commercial and heavy industrial. Are those four things so horrid that they shouldn't be allowed in highway commercial? I don't think so.
Well, we already do it up here in this B2, B1, so Vivian Parquet. That they do truck repair in there and other equipment. I don't know if they do farm equipment up there either, but they do, the diesel mechanics and so forth. So they do it already. So.
And I do
Me
think,
too.
just kind of coming back to what you were saying, John, if I remember correctly, and I mean, it's been a minute, but there used to only be B1 and B2. B1 was more like your like your Main Street businesses, and B2 was kind of everything else. And then we added all of these other things in over the years. So it used to be that in B2, which was kind of everything that wasn't on the Main Street, you were allowed to. So, I mean, where I see what you're saying, it could also be argued that it just got dropped because there was so, it was being changed so much. And I take responsibility for that. I missed it. So I don't know.
Well, this mule is going to be just about dead by being big.
Sorry.
So we
I'm
should just make a
making-
decision as a
Yeah.
committee. Do we want to allow 42, 43, 44?
I'll
Yes.
recommend to the board. If you want to make a motion to recommend.
Well, no, we're just gonna talk here for a minute before we make it. But if we allow 42, 43, 44, and 47 in highway commercial, then we could zone that area basically highway commercial and be done with it.
And it's not even that area, it's literally one lot. That's it.
So that would solve the problem.
Well, that's an easy solution.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off topic here for a moment. I'm of the opinion we need a top to bottom review of all of our land codes.
I would agree.
But
I'll be
that's
having
me.
I'll be having root canals all those days.
Yeah.
With no anesthesia, right?
Oh, definitely not. Just needle nose pliers.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. Does that work for you, Christie, to just
That-
rezone that lot?
Well, it's a two-phase
You
thing.
lose some things and gain some things.
No, I don't, losing those things are bad. But that's where I say it's already, but those things are already happening in highway commercial, whether they should be or not.
Yeah.
I don't see there being a problem with where those businesses are located. So it's one
one, like the first, does the committee want to recommend that those items 42, 43, 40, whatever they are, and 47 be allowed in highway commercial? And two, if so, then do I want to change the zone on that property from heavy industrial to highway commercial? If the first happens, absolutely. If the first doesn't happen, no. And then we come back to what you're saying, which is then, should there be living allowed there? And then I come back to, I mean, it's just like a circle, it just keeps going.
Yeah. Does it make any sense to wait until you have a buyer? And then that buyer says, hey, I would like to change it to highway commercial because I want living quarters. And nothing I'm gonna do with the building requires anything other than a zoning change.
And maybe letting them know in your, however you post it, like, town, I don't wanna speak for the planning commission nor the board, but planning commission or the town is open to talks about, dwelling units.
I think it's obvious we're willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Here we are. The mule has no life in it.
Yeah, I mean, because then I could just sit there and go, you know what, never mind all that, why don't you just buy my lot right next door?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no difference except one has a building on it and one is in the town of Westcliff and the other is in the town of Westcliff, but in Shadow Ridge subdivision.
Okay.
And for some reason, Shadow Ridge said that living, it was allowed. And, but for some reason, the town of Westcliff is saying it's not. And I mean, I didn't check it off and I should have, all the things that are allowed on that lot one in Shadow Ridge, because it is way broader than any,
Because it was a PUD and.
I don't
Right.
think, yeah, I don't think you're lot one, you have to be two, right?
no, lot one, if you look, if we're going off of what's on the plat, which I think we kind of are.
Yeah, used by right, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole huge list of use
yeah.
by right. And so I'm not asking for all of those rights because I actually disagree with some of those rights. I'm not asking for all of those rights on this lot, which is 151 County Road 241 is the exact address. I'm just asking for it to have the heavy industrial, what's allowed in heavy industrial, it's the only difference are those four things, but there be allowed to be a dwelling.
We have no idea at this point whether that's impeding the sale of that property.
No, and I mean, at this moment, it's not, but I also know, enough to know that if I look at a buyer and say, yeah, you can probably do that, but you're gonna need to go before the town board and ask, that might really turn someone off. Cause like, this is a scary place. And I'm not scared of you guys, but this is a scary place to be.
You mean this room is a scary
Well,
place?
it is, yeah, it's intimidating to have to do this. And like I said, it'd be one thing if it was just, I would have no argument if the lot right next door didn't have this use by right. And yes, it's
So
an
let me just interrupt there, I'm sorry, but we're coming first full circle on this, and we're talking about 41, 42, 43, 44, and 47. Those uses could be highway industrial and with use by right for dwelling, are we not? Why don't we just say that heavy industrial has use by right for dwelling units, or dwelling unit?
I'm
trying to
Yeah.
skirt all the way around this, we end up at the same place.
Motion.
I'm at the point right now, I'm just not comfortable voting for anything. It seems like we're trying to change an entire code based on one piece of property.
I have a suggestion.
Please talk.
Okay, so I'm a carpenter and a builder. My suggestion would be to take away the restriction don't give the right, but say that, because Colorado does have squatters' rights, across the whole state. If you own the property, you should be able to reside in the property, and, you just take away the restriction. You don't give them the privilege. You just take away the restrictions that, so you're not, if you're on the property, and you're living there, you either gotta have the basics, self-contained trailer or something like that, but you just take away the, it's just a suggestion. It doesn't change your codes, doesn't change your zoning.
Yeah.
You just eliminate the restriction of being able to, reside on the property.
Yeah, well, then we're back to the owner occupied versus rental, issue.
But, you know, it is, John, you're right, it is only one property. But we do have a code for it. We do have, it's called heavy industrial.
Right.
And, what Christie is recommending that we allow people to live, in, above, below, or attached to that property, to that building. And I don't see that as a huge change in the code, especially since it's only one property. I mean, highway commercial, then it's beginning to affect a lot of different properties that we have. Many of them are mine, my subdivision. If I could change it and sell those properties, I would, but I can't. Anyway,
Should we have a motion?
well, I'm just trying to, we're not having a motion yet, we're just discussing still. You want me, we don't have to make a motion. So that's what I would think about, is that it's just one property. And, we're not having to bend that far backwards to allow it. I mean, it's a solution to a problem. One problem, because there's only one law.
And it's not a problem.
It's not a problem yet. I mean,
We don't know if it's affecting the sale of this property in any way.
well, that's her problem.
Yeah.
So if we said use by right in heavy industrial, problem solved for Christie. Well, she could sell it for that, maybe she can. But it helps us, help the citizen. That's what really our job is here, to achieve their objectives. Of course, John, I have sympathy for your concern about the health and welfare of the people who live there. But, you know, we already have businesses in highway commercial that do basically some of the same things, and they have a right to dwell there. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, because we're not enforcing the code in several of those properties.
Well, I mean,
Not necessarily, I mean, because this whole, this part that talks about light manufacturing, all of those, that is a right in those highway commercial properties. And all of those concerns, odors, you know, cabinet making, all that,
Noise.
yeah, all of that is relevant. I mean, all of that could be happening in those properties by right. But also by rights, someone can live there. So I don't see how the town can enforce, with the right in place. I don't see how the town can enforce, like, well, you can do light manufacturing, but not this kind of light manufacturing, someone's be living there.
Well, you're saying we're not consistent.
No, I'm saying by the code right now, it talks about light manufacturing being allowed in highway commercial, and people are allowed to reside in highway commercial, and someone could be doing all of those. They could be welding in that shop, they could be painting in there, they can be doing all of those things, and someone is still allowed to reside, you know, with all the requirements to keep the space between. It's not like they can live in the bay, I mean, you know, keep the difference in space, so I mean, it's up to
you guys, I agree, like the horse is dead. But I just think that it should be the same, right? Because there's been plenty of shops in this valley that people have resided above their shops and they've had huge trucking companies.
So Caleb, just a question on code. So what's the required separation between some of these uses and in a residence?
Yeah, it would depend on what's being used in there, you know, fumes, you know, and if we're getting into air quality, that's like a whole nother part of the code book, right? Mechanical, right, to where I'm not certified mechanical inspector. So that's why I say separate it, because ultimate way around it is separating rather than going through, you know, air filtration systems and all that,
So
so.
depending on the use, you might have a 1 hour separation and you might have a 2 hour separation in terms of fire.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Usually. And in the mechanical code would talk about separation of air systems. In other words, heating and ventilation systems would have to be separate.
exactly.
So now you're adding some additional cost in, that, you know, that we have some control over. In terms of the building code, so you'd have to make those things separate. You would conceivably have to design for the worst case in terms of firewall. In fact, that would be the smart thing to do if you're saying all of these uses have to be considered to separate this from that. So you've got separate HVAC systems, and you've got separate egress and ingress, I would think. Because you'd have, I don't know what a 2 hour fire door would look like. And it's gonna be much more than just 5/8 X drywall on each side of the wall. Anyway, all of that, you know, you could make it in use by right. But it might be prohibitive in terms of cost to create that space and make it safe.
And that's why my argument for, I mean, if the town were to make the commission were to make the recommendation of that being used by right, all of those things, that would be on the buyer. And maybe they'll be like, never mind, I don't want to do all that. And so maybe I want to go to the town and ask to have a separate dwelling, you know, at the corner of the property or something. It kind of comes back to like, not my problem, you know, like, I just want them to be allowed to have this option.
Yeah.
And if they have to meet all those things, then they can or can't.
All right, so I think John makes good points. Would you accept that if we were to, Caleb would have to define what that was?
Well, the code is defined.
Well, I mean, what code?
The IBC and UBC, right?
Obviously, yes.
Well, that'd be great if it's already defined for us. We may not want to accept it all, but yeah, we can certainly.
Would that also cover the HVAC separation?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a whole, you know, you get different guys in this position, so you could have someone who's might pay attention and someone who doesn't. You know, it's commercial property, it'd have to be engineered, stamped engineer plan. So, you know, the filtration would be covered through that and at least the engineering side,
So, all right, so
But
do
all
we,
of that should be already in, anyone that's residing with a wall between themselves and a commercial property should have to be meeting all of that, regardless if it's heavy industrial or highway commercial,
Or
I mean,
even retail?
yeah, so.
all right. So are you comfortable with that? What John just laid out?
With,
With, you know, like separate heat and ventilation systems, fire doors or whatever it requires.
if that is what's required by the IBC and UBC, I can't have a problem with that. That's, you know,
Alright,
so,
so-
but am I going to, if special restrictions are being put on my property, but not being put on other commercial properties with residences, yeah, I will have a problem with that.
Ask for a motion.
I'm sorry.
I said it's been 15 minutes. Can
I
we ask for a
understand,
motion?
but,
I
I think John and Chrissy's making the point that we haven't been enforcing some of our codes.
Yeah, I don't think,
And,
I don't think we go backwards. I mean,
I
you
would
brought
disagree with
up,
that.
you brought up an issue that hasn't been considered before. For both, zones. So going forward, I don't see the town going backwards and saying, okay, we're coming in and we're gonna make you, upgrade, you know,
Right.
the firewalls and the
So,
HVAC systems. But I think going forward, now that we're aware of it, we can do that.
I recommend to the board that we authorize dwelling units above and below, or behind the business in heavy industrial that meet IBC, UBC code.
Is that a motion?
Well, it's a recommendation.
Cause you have to make
Yeah.
a motion.
Can I
Motion
help
to
you out
make
with
a
that motion?
recommendation.
Yes.
I would make a motion to amend Title 10, Chapter 2 of the municipal code, and then from there, I can take it from there. If you want to make it use by right. Or I would make a motion to have dwelling units above, below, or behind the business and a heavy industrial use by right.
Is there a second?
So I'll move that motion. It was just defined and, I mean, he's not allowed to make a motion.
Did you get that, Melanie?
I'll have Caleb help me write it down, but is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. And do we want to do a roll call for it?
Sure.
Or, okay, Mr. Winky?
Yes.
Mr. Van Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes,
Okay,
All
the
right,
motion passes.
all right. very good.
Sorry, thank you.
We made you work for that one, Christie.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be stepping back.
I'm whatever, unrecusing myself.
Okay.
I don't disagree with revisiting the codes and that
But yeah,
at some point.
doing the whole thing would be,
You know,
Something that
we
we
have
should do.
reviewed Title 10 a number of times.
but it was mostly just a, wordsmithing of, and getting consultants in here that understand, the codes and their intent, would be very helpful. And we're not alone. There are so many small towns like us that copied codes from somebody else decades ago. And that's what we got. We don't know where they came from or the reasoning for the language in them. We've been using them just like that with a few tweaks.
Okay, I'll actually be on that committee. I volunteer for that committee. I should never have just said that. Item B of old business is discussion of the possible proposed affordable housing ordinance.
See, I don't have that on my agenda. Oh, yes, I do. No, I see it. I see it. I thought I'm going down to new business, okay.
So, this was, Paul, you asked this to be put on, we tabled it because we had a whole bunch of stuff going on last month. I don't know if we need a workshop for it, like I said last month as well, but you wanted an affordable housing ordinance and I don't know what that is. I did do a lot of writing to kind of just wrap everything into it and then let you guys take things apart, put something here and there. But I need to, if we want an affordable housing ordinance, I need to know what we want out of that ordinance.
First of all, I'm condemning the word affordable housing. That's workforce housing.
Okay, you got workforce
That will
housing.
help a lot. But I think Caleb, based on our discussions today with Chaffa, that maybe we wait for them to complete what they're doing, because that will be a guide for us.
I would love that.
And then that could help us better define what this is, what we as a town are gonna do, can do, or, for example, we've talked about giving town property away to a developer. Well, that's a serious issue. It's taxpayer property. And, we have to have a discussion about that. Who's gonna put in streets, curb, gutter, sidewalk, et cetera, et cetera. So all those issues need to be wrapped into a housing ordinance.
The workforce housing ordinance. I just want to make one comment about, giving away property. Right now, every year, we take public money and we give it to private business owners and private property owners on Main Street for the facade program.
Right.
That's an investment in the economic vitality.
Well, that's a discussion, John. I can hear what you're saying. But that's a
And
discussion.
so this is also an investment. When we're investing in workforce housing, we're actually investing in the people behind the facade. So we are willing to take public money and invest it in private property for economic vitality purposes.
Right.
And for me, it's no different.
Well, of course, the board,
Except for the magnitude.
the board would have to decide that, but there are other elements as well.
Yeah.
So we had a very interesting meeting this morning with Chaffa,
Bob's leaving.
Oh, Bob's leaving.
and they're gonna take about 90 days or so, whatever it takes to get this done. And it will give us a guide, to a plan to follow. And I think that will help us define better what a housing ordinance like this would look like. Workforce housing ordinance.
So what you're suggesting is let's table that.
Table that,
for
so we're
90
done
days.
for 90
Or
days.
more.
I've made so many notes, okay.
But it's good thinking that you'll bring to the next meeting in 90 days.
It's gonna be hard for me to keep track of that. I just being frank and open and honest. So if we could, if you want it brought back up, just please request that we want that back up. 'Cause that, if we table for 90 days, I promise you, it's gonna get lost in the weeds.
Or can we just is there a way for you guys to know that we table it until we get this report from Chaffa?
How about I table it until January 1st?
Okay, and then if we have it, we'll know we need to move forward. Then if we don't, then we need to wait another month. We can just keep tabling it.
Okay. we
I
can-
hate to do
Or you
that.
can let it die, but
Well, I mean, no, I think it's important.
yeah,
Um,
I just.
but we need something.
Yeah, we need to give staff clear direction, all right? Like, so when we want an affordable housing ordinance, like, oh my, that can mean absolutely,
Workforce housing.
thank you. When we want a workforce housing ordinance, that could literally mean anything. So
Well,
please, if you want something, have notes, tell me what you would like on there, and then from there, I can advise you all on whether or not I think that, something as this number of affordable units or, whatever it is, if it's too specific, right, I'll be advising against it. So we just want to be careful creating laws that we are holding ourselves to, that we don't want to break ourselves. So maybe even a policy, something like that. So I received, thank you.
Okay, so don't shoot yourself in the foot, is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
All right, so then item 7, new business. Item A is a public hearing, consideration of recommending to the Board of Trustees rezoning 106 South 7th Street from residential single family to traditional neighborhood. Do we have anybody here representing that?
I represent 106 South 7th
Okay,
Street.
great. So this public hearing is when people would have questions or comments, but this is your opportunity to have the floor to talk about why you're wanting this.
So, my grandmother and I purchased 106 South 7th Street a few months ago. And the intent on building commercial space to lease on the first floor and apartments above one
Wait a
apartment.
minute, we can't do that.
Okay,
No,
We're just a joke.
okay,
But it's not a joke.
what?
what, no, just go ahead.
I'm
Go,
sorry.
go ahead.
I have a hard time catching jokes, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So the intent on making commercial space, storefront space, either for a dance hall or a commercial kitchen to lease. Vanessa Cruz asked me if I would consider a commercial kitchen to where they could lease a commercial kitchen to cook for the Courtyard Inn. I said that would be a possibility to consider a commercial kitchen. And then also have possible venue space to lease and apartments up above. And the sheriff's office, Sheriff Smith approached me, asked me if I'd consider putting apartments in for his deputies to live in because they cannot afford to live up here in West Cliff.
Can I just have some clarification really quick? This is the property that sits just to the south of Peregrine, isn't it?
That's correct.
And it's always been I always thought, and this is again an historical thing, that the downstairs has always been a business and the upstairs has always been an apartment. So again, this kind of seems to be one of those things that just maybe got lost in
Right.
the shuffle.
At closing, the insurance, not insurance, but the realtor told me I would have to come before the board for the town in order to have that permission to have the commercial space with the apartment.
I agree with Christie. As long as I've been here, there's been always a business on the lower level.
Okay,
I'm not familiar with their now, but.
Yes.
Well, what's the zoning?
It's residential single family district. That's why. Right across that alley is residential single
What
family
is
district.
Peregrine zone?
That is traditional neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it should just be traditional there. I mean, that's a nice little, it just.
it's an excellent
It
spot.
seems to me like it was sort of missed out by, I don't know why that was like this little island out there,
Yeah.
but.
I think it would make sense. Yeah.
So that's the ask to change it to traditional neighborhood.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's right, I mean, it's surrounded by traditional neighborhood from the west and to the north.
And that allows Ben to put offices below and apartments above.
Yes.
Or any kind of business,
Oh,
not
but-
any kind, but you know, like
Not that
a,
heavy industrial
no.
stuff.
No, I don't like that
but like
stuff.
a kitchen or a restaurant or anything
I'd like
along
to
those lines.
also do like, I don't know if it matters, but I want to do a 1920s, like Art Deco looking building to make it look like it's an old building that's been in the neighborhood forever.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any rules regarding that, but what, Melanie?
No.
No, I just wanted to say Bob approves. I know he can't vote because he's not here, but he approves of the plan.
Okay.
He just wanted to let.
Does anyone want to have any more questions or would anyone like to, because then item B is consideration of recommending to rezone that. And then how it works is we make the recommendation to the town board has to give the final sign off.
Okay,
So, does anyone have any other
I move that
questions?
We rezone 106 South 7th Street from residential.
Recommend to the board.
Move the board. That the board of trustees rezone 106 South 7th from residential single family to traditional neighborhood.
Second,
Motion is made and second that we make the recommendation to the town board to rezone 106 South 7th from residential single family to traditional neighborhood. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That
Okay.
sounds like you're doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, the commercial kitchen.
It
and
does.
I'm excited.
whatever.
Yeah,
Art Deco, I love Art Deco.
Me too.
I like Art Deco style buildings. I like the architecture and the masonry.
And everybody loses that part of this community that did exist. Everybody focuses on the 1800s and the railroad and all that, but there's that whole.
There's a little bit of Art Deco in Silver Cliff on Tony's Mountain Pizza on the masonry corbelling, and I really would like to have that architectural aspect added back to the town.
Cool. All
that
right.
sounds great.
So
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
item C is discuss, consider, and
recommend to the Board of Trustees the master plan. I made a bunch of notes here too.
Bob asked me to speak his mind on this. He would like, to table this for now, to give, him more time to review the master plan. He'd even, be in favor of a workshop to basically finish everything. I'm of the same mind. I was pretty heavily involved in the process with all the meetings we had. I haven't gone through it since it was handed to the clerks to clean up. And so I would like that opportunity. And so there may be, I haven't done my homework like Christie has. Yeah, I don't even know where it is, the version that the clerks have.
It's in the
massaged.
packet. It's in the packet.
It's in the
It's in the
packet.
packet, that may not be the most updated one because of my,
We had some things that
Confusion.
we had to take out.
Oh, no, that's on me. Apologies, guys.
Did you get that done, Caleb?
So
Yes, sir. And that I did make sure to show that in there, so that's my fault.
So Christie, it may take a considerable amount of time to go through the whole thing again, get everybody's comments. So do you want to do that as a workshop, or do you want to try and schedule it on regular agenda?
I mean, I'm good with a workshop, and maybe we should have a workshop that it should encompass, I mean, of course it's a workshop, so anyone can come. But I have a lot of notes if you want my notes. I was ready.
I would like to see your notes, actually.
I have till 5.
You have till
I'm
5?
salary, so I can stay even longer, so if you guys wanna.
I,
I think Bob needs to be here. Chuck, I think and also was in on most of the meetings. Chris was there for most of the meetings. I think they should be part of this workshop, so, that's.
You guys call, I mean, should we wait then, or can a poll be taken of people when would work for a workshop for them?
Yeah, so if you guys wanna go ahead and make the motion, get your seconds, and then on additional comments, I'll go ahead and start getting some dates here.
Do we need to make a motion to do that?
Well, it's really just tabling it, but then I don't think we need a motion for a workshop.
Do you want, we would like, motions, just even if it is for tabling, that way the minutes are clear, so we're all concise.
So someone can make a motion to table, can it be in the same motion to table it and to schedule a workshop?
That is correct.
Someone want to make that motion? I'll make it. I'll make a motion to table the master plan and schedule a workshop to discuss the master plan.
Second.
Motion's been made second to table the master plan and schedule a workshop. All those in favor say aye.
Okay, so let's look at dates. Hopefully you have calendars out. If you don't, please try to do so.
Well, we pick a few because then you can hear from Bob
Yes.
also and
Very good.
Chris as well.
All right, so next week will probably not work for me in general. So going at the week of the 14th, there is the 16th we can look from, so that can be the first day. We can look also at the 17th.
I can do the 17th, and that's the only day.
Okay, so we'll do the 17th. How about the 18th?
Nope.
Okay, so the 17th is one possible day. Then we'll go to next week. I pretty much have every day except for Thursday available.
In general, I pretty much have it every day except Thursday ever available. So
Yeah, the next week I'm pretty open.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and shoot an email out.
Yeah.
You guys will be blind copied, so it's not a public meeting. And from the 21st to the 23rd, Paul, you do leave on the 22nd?
20th.
20th, okay.
And I'll be gone till the middle of December.
smokes.
What do you think this is?
Annual vacation.
I need a vacation.
And I'm really pressed right now with things at work and this, and other things with the town hall. I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to do it till sometime in December, so.
You want to leave this up to the rest of us? Because it's coming back to you anyway.
Yeah, I suppose. It's just getting to be, it's the wrong time of year, you know, for me anyway. And this won't go, when's the next board meeting? When's the board meeting in December, Caleb, do you remember?
The December board meeting should be the 17th, shouldn't it?
I will be back for that. I
Okay,
won't be here for the 8th. I'll be here, no, wait a minute.
so
I won't.
so what you're saying is we can do, if, well, there are motions already made, so we'll have the workshop. And then you'll be able to see it before it gets passed and give your blessing on it. Would that be
And,
appropriate?
and there's not even just saying that there's gonna be one workshop. I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Could be
So
double.
are you okay with not
Yeah.
being at the first?
And you
workshop?
can also email me the text.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
would work too.
Got it.
We extended this trip, and I think that's gonna get me in trouble with my mayor pro tem. Cause I said I'd be back in November, I will not now. But you can blame my wife for that.
I'm gonna say, who would you rather be have cross with you, Mayor Pro Tem or your wife?
Yes, my wife.
He already made that choice.
My current wife.
How many have you had and are you planning to have?
No, well, this is 42 years and, you know, getting to the point where I have to make a decision.
I'm still on my starter wife.
I'm sorry?
I'm still on my starter wife.
Well, so Caleb, I guess just look at that week of the 21st, what might work for people.
Yeah.
Or even the.
Okay. I'll send out emails, guys, just pay attention to your emails, thank you.
Okay.
Now we have public comment. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? Oh, Melanie?
No, I just pulled, I got my pen ready just in case.
If not, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Also move.
Second.
Motion is made second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
It was only an hour and 15 minutes.
That's pretty good for what we've been dealing with.
Consider we spent an hour.
Oh, wait till next month.
Did you get that email from me about?
That's a commercial district.
About the,
No.
did you get the